New Zealand's obsessed with weatherboard. Weatherboard profiles are the most common cladding in New Zealand, making up a 43% market share. In today's video, we'll discuss some of the cladding options available here in New Zealand. We'll review the pros and cons of each, and stick around to the end of the video where we'll talk about why I believe New Zealanders prefer timber weatherboards. Hey, I'm Josh, a builder here in New Zealand, building a number of homes, running a building company. Quick disclaimer, these videos are put together based on the research we can get from brands and NBIE, and basically just my experience in the marketplace. According to a recent brands report, Weatherboard makes up 43% of all cladding options here in New Zealand. Of that, 75% is timber. Some of the other weatherboard options include fiber cement and PVC, also known as vinyl. As well as reviewing those weatherboard options, we'll also discuss brick veneer, metal cladding, and plaster. Let's rip into it. For as long as people have been building homes in New Zealand, timber weatherboards have been their preferred choice. Bevel back is by far the most traditional and most common option. It's a very, very effective way at keeping the water on the outside of the house. Basically, that's what you want a cladding for, right? Another horizontal profile is rusticated weatherboard. The top of each board has a scallop and the bottom of each board has a little recess where they overlap each other. Similar to rusticated, you have shiplap. Shiplap is normally laid vertically. Some common timbers we use here in New Zealand for weatherboard are cedar, pine, and natural hardwoods. Now, back in the last century, we were still chopping down our beautiful native trees like rimu and kauri, and this was ending up as weatherboards. It sounds criminal to say that now, given how long those trees take to grow. There is more sustainable ways to create timber. Cedar is a great option as it's naturally water resistant. It's getting really expensive to bring it into the country though. Pine, growing here in New Zealand, is a great option, but needs a lot of chemicals pumped into it to make it go the distance, and also not a naturally stable product. So if it's going to be long-term durable, needs things like thermal modification to it. Couple of pros of timber weatherboards. First and foremost, it is a versatile product. It can be stained, it can be painted, it can be shaped easily. It does mean it suits a variety of designs all the way from traditional through to modern. Just like framing, a majority of New Zealand builders prefer timber, and their toolkits are set up to deal with this. And part of the reason is that timber is easy to cut, shape, and install. As well as being easy to install, it also makes it easy to repair and maintain. Usually it's easy to take out a section of wall and replace it, or even just replace one board or one part of a board. Some of the cons of timber include maintenance, whether it's covered or exposed. If you don't maintain it, it is going to degrade. On top of all this, you need to make sure you keep it clean. Everyone should be cleaning the exterior of their house at least once a year. If you've painted your weatherboard, you'll usually need to repaint that every 8 to 10 years. If you've stained your weatherboard, you'll need to restain it every 1 to 3 years. Another con is durability. While timber is easy to repair, it is less durable than products such as brick or concrete, and it is more susceptible to damage from the weather, UV, from constant moisture, and it's known to expand and contract, which can lead to cracking, swelling, and other issues. One last con to keep in mind is that timber is a combustible product. For example, if you're in an area that's susceptible to bushfires, you might choose to do a house out of a product such as rammed earth or concrete to know that your building is going to stand the test of time. You know what else New Zealand is obsessed with, or at least they should be, is NZ Builder on YouTube. If you haven't already, go ahead, click subscribe, help us crack our goal of 100k subs. As well as timber weatherboard, we also have two other options in the market: fiber cement and PVC. Personally, I've never installed PVC, so I cannot be an expert on that, but I have installed a lot of fiber cement weatherboard. Fiber cement weatherboards are made from a mix of cement, sand, and fibers. They are designed to mimic the look of traditional timber weatherboards without the issues of pests, rot, decay that you would find in timber. Therefore, a more durable option. On top of this, they don't expand and contract as much as timber. This means that you can paint them dark colors, and we have a real trend here in New Zealand right now where everyone wants to paint their house a dark color. If that's you, fiber cement is a great option. Some of the cons of fiber cement is that it is a heavier product to work with than timber and does require slightly different tools. You need different blades. On top of all of this, you need to be all over your dust extraction. When you cut that fiber up, it creates tiny little particles, and if you breathe those particles in, it is not good for your lungs, folks. One thing to comment on with fiber cement is the issue of moisture management. Cement is a porous product that does suck in moisture and hold it. In the 90s and early 2000s, there was issues with leaky homes, and fiber cement was attached to a lot of this. There's been a lot of detail changes where now you build on a cavity behind the weatherboard before the building wrap. And the other big thing is making sure that the face of your fiber cement weatherboards are sealed up properly so any water stays on the surface and runs away from the building. In saying all that, I put fiber cement on my last build on the section nobody wanted. We use it in the majority of our builds actually. I'm confident using fiber cement, and as long as you follow the specifications, as long as you seal it properly, it is a great alternative option. Moving right along to another product, brick veneer. Brick veneer is a type of cladding where you have a layer of bricks on the outside of the building and a timber frame on the inside. The brick is just a facade on the outside of the building. Typically, these bricks are made of clay or concrete. Some of the pros of brick is that it's very durable and can last for decades without maintenance. This is because it's resistant to weathering, pests, rot, all those things that seem to attack timber. This also means that brick is low maintenance, it doesn't need to be painted, and the way it looks on day one is usually how it continues to look for the rest of its life. And for some people, you cannot beat the aesthetic look of brick. For them, it encapsulates what a home is. A couple of the cons of bricks is the weight. It's heavy material to move around site, to get to site. So because of that, it needs a slightly bigger foundation. It needs a wider foundation than normal as well. There's also a huge skills shortage of bricklayers in New Zealand. We just don't have the skills here to install bricks, and a skilled bricklayer is as rare as hen's teeth. Also, New Zealand is prone to earthquakes, and brick, being a rigid product, does not do well in earthquakes. This means any damage or cracking that is a result from movement is really hard to repair and quite an intense job. For these reasons, I generally steer clear of brick. Let's move on to metal cladding. Now, I know you've already watched our Obsessed with Metal Roofs video, so you'll know what metal roofing is all about, and that is one of the options that Kiwis often put on the side of their homes. When I was building my home on the section nobody wanted, the original design was 2/3 metal, and we went and looked at profiles, we checked out other builds with it. Basically, talking to the installers, talking to other people that had done it, talked me out of it, and I decided to go for a vertical weatherboard because New Zealand's obsessed with it instead. However, in saying that, metal does have some pros. One of them would be that it's a finished product once you install it. You buy the sheets pre-colored and you install them, and then theoretically you don't have to do anything else to that wall. It's lightweight, which means it's easier to move around site. If you're doing it in sheets, you do get coverage if you don't have lots and lots of windows to go around. Personally, I don't think it's a great cladding option. It's a very, very labor intensive, and you have to make sure that everything is dead flat and mint, and every little millimeter of variation shows up in the face of your product. There is a lot of expansion and contraction in metal, and that leads to not only variations in the visual appearance, but lots of noise in the building. Think about when it rains. People love the sound of rain on the top of your metal roof in the middle of a storm, but think about that slamming down on the side of your building and being constant. And not to hate on metal even more, but it's really easy to ding and damage or scratch, which then takes away from that finished product look, and then you got to rip off a whole sheet to replace it. Moving on to plaster, one of the common options here in New Zealand is rock coat. Plaster is usually a cement-based mix made from Portland cement, sand and water that is then screeded over the exterior of the house. Now there's a bit of work from the builder to prepare the surface so it can get plastered. It actually looks very sharp. We used it on the largest house I ever built, and you can see that in this video here. I think it looks great. It's a good option for feature walls. Some of the pros of plaster is that it is durable, it is resistant to UV deterioration, it requires minimal maintenance and upkeep. Some of the cons of plaster is the cost. On top of the builder doing his work, you're now involving a special trade and getting them in to do their work. If it's not installed properly, it can be susceptible to cracking. And just like some of the fiber cement products, plaster had a bad name in the 90s and early 2000s and was associated with leaky homes. In saying that, these days all products are installed on a cavity. There's a lot more detail and thought put into dealing with the moisture, and those details made me confident to put it on this build. Just to mention a few that we're not going to go into detail on, but do exist in the marketplace right now. Obviously glass is one of them, and making up more and more of a building. If you want your entire building to be glass, you're going to have to involve an engineer and a specialist. But even a traditional build now has far more glass than it used to. You've also got products like concrete becoming more common with tilt panels, and so these are stood and one side of that is the finished product, and these can have a variety of forms or textures on them. One thing to think about with concrete is it's again a heavily engineered product that requires specialist installation, and things like chasing in your flashings into concrete are really time consuming, and this means that it doesn't get used on your run-of-the-mill builds. There's also things like schist or schist veneers, but essentially these follow the same details that a brick veneer would, and so really we just lump all of that into the brick category. On top of bricks, you can also use masonry blocks like Firth 200 series blocks, and you can get these honed, and so that can form the edge of your building. Again, similar issues to dealing with concrete, chasing in all your flashings, getting room for services, all those things make it not so common to be used. Have I missed anything? Comment below if you've got a common cladding you use that I haven't talked about. Coming back to what this video is all about, timber weatherboards. Why do I think Kiwis are obsessed with timber weatherboard? I think it's three things: availability, ease of use, and local knowledge. We have an abundance of forests and sawmills here in New Zealand, making timber a ready available product. This means that a lot of Kiwis associate a home with weatherboard. Not only are timber weatherboards easy to install for the builder the first time round, but they are easy to maintain and repair. And with a lot of homes in New Zealand now being over 100 years old, builders have the skills to go into an old timber weatherboard house and make it new again. On top of all this, local building codes support timber homes, and there's the path of least resistance to getting a home through the building consent and code of compliance system. There is a wealth of knowledge amongst the industry and the builders around timber, how to use timber, how to install timber, how to make it fit for purpose. My final 5 cents on the timber weatherboard obsession in New Zealand is that I feel like it's probably actually decreasing. And I think looking forward into the future, it's not just going to be alternatives that are man-made, it's going to be alternatives that are circular economy, where the waste and the offcuts are getting sent back to the factory to get turned into future products. Long term, we're going to start looking for products that we can send back and reuse.